All right, good evening, everyone. Today is Thursday, October 8th, and this is just a video regarding some things that we need to wrap up for Unit 1, but also looking forward to Unit 2, which starts and opens today, so we'll go over some things with that. First, some things that I wanted to wrap up from Unit 1. All of you took a Chapter 4 reading quiz, and it came to the instructor's attention from another section that one of the questions is miskeyed or misgraded. So I will be going through manually and changing. It's only if you answer the one question, because there's several questions that each of you answer various ones or a different assortment of questions. So some of you may have not had the question come up at all. So not all of your scores will increase by 1, just those that had the question come up in their reading quiz and it was miskeyed. So I will go in manually. You may see a change, you may not. If you have questions about it, let me know. Overall on the assignments, everything should have been turned in last night. In general, please proofread. There were several that had grammatical, spelling errors that is not indicative of a college level course. This first unit, I was a little bit more lenient on it, but if I see issues in future assignments where the spelling and grammar makes it difficult for me to read or understand what your point is, then I will deduct points for that. So please be aware of that. Also, on the Dear Abby letters, there in the directions it states that there is a minimum word requirement of 2,200 words. This includes the original Dear Abby letter, what you're responding to. So between 9 responses, including the letters, 2,200 words is not difficult to come to. There were several students who only answered less than half of that with their word count. So please pay attention to that word requirement. It's the only assignment that has a minimum word count. From now on, I will only take a percentage of your word count. So for example, if you responded and turned in the assignment with only 800 words, I will do 800 divided by 2,200, and that equals 36% on the assignment. Or if it's 1,100 words, that would be 50%. This time around, I was more lenient. I deducted some, but I gave more credit than using this example here. But you need to follow those directions on that. So please be aware of the word count. Watch the time that you submit your assignments. Several students were a couple hours late. Make sure it's midnight Mountain Time. So whatever time in Idaho and Utah. Arizona, depending on your daylight savings, I think you might be different. But anyways, whatever time is at BYU, Idaho, midnight, on the day it's due, you need to watch that. Do not procrastinate on these assignments. I think several of you may have waited until yesterday to start them, which hopefully you've learned is not the best idea for this class. I can tell. I could easily tell which students had enough time to complete the full assignment and which ones tried to just quickly get it done because they were racing against the clock. Dependent and independent variables we're going to go over in more detail in just a minute. If you have not completed your assignments yet, and there's a few of you who submitted some work but then commented in the comments section that you were hoping to finish more up, you have until Monday, October 12th to do that. What will happen is every day that you turn an assignment late, I will deduct 10% from that. So if you turn it in today, you would have the highest score you could receive is 90%. If it's tomorrow, 80%. Monday, it'll be 50%. But 50% is better than 0. So please consider that we need to get those assignments in. Okay, so independent and dependent variables. On the observation and development assignment, as well as in the reflective journal, there were questions about the variables in experiments. And I have this little guide, and hopefully you can still see this. Okay, that I want you to read through, and I'm going to summarize what this website says. The independent, there's a great example down here that I'll have you guys look at, and even higher. The independent variable causes a change in the dependent variable. The dependent variable can never cause a change in the independent variable. So for example, in the observations and development, the eye color of the child is independent. You cannot change the eye color of a child. I'm sorry, my child is crying in the bathtub right now. She's not alone, trust me. My husband's with her, in case you think I'm a terrible parent for letting my child play in the bathtub by herself. So with the eye color, you cannot change that. So the independent variable stays the same. Let me think of the other one. The example of the Bobo doll. The children were shown a video of aggressive or non-aggressive behavior. The video they watched was the independent variable. That video didn't change. There were two groups. Some watched, the experimental group or the test group watched the aggressive video, and the control group watched the passive video. So there were two different videos, but the video didn't change in content with that group of, with each group of children. The dependent variable is what changes. So in the eye color, the dependent variable is how the children react. In the Bobo doll experiment, it is how the children react. That is what changes. So there's an example here that time spent studying causes a change in test score. So the more time you study, theoretically, hypothetically, you would have a higher test score. It's not possible that your test score could cause a change in the time that you study. So therefore, the time spent studying has to be the independent variable, because that's not affected by your test score. And the test score would be dependent because it is affected by the amount of studying that you put into it. So look over this page. Hopefully that helps you understand more. And let me know if you have other questions about that. But some of you, it was a little confusing, I could tell. So there it is. All right, I'm going to move this up here again so that you can see this slide. All right, Unit 2. So that's the rest of Unit 1. If you have questions about your scores, let me know. All the grades will be in by next Wednesday. I would like to say most of the Dear Abby and the reflective journals graded. I have all of the observations and development left, but hopefully by the weekend I'll have a good chunk of those done. If you have questions about your scores, please contact me as soon as possible. I don't want to wait till the end of the semester and having to look back on what we did in September and October. So Unit 2 starts today. I sent an email out. I sent 2 emails out about the discussion groups. You no longer will be in a class-wide discussion group of 45 students. Instead, you have been broken down into groups of 5 or 6. It was a completely random assignment. And those groups you will be in a discussion group with. So it'll be much more involved. Your responses will have to be up to date a little bit more. You'll have to check in more. So here are the directions straight from iLearn. They're right on, when you click on the Collaborative Quest discussion board, you will see these directions. You also see more information about Campbell Brown and Jim Carrey, which I didn't leave here. The first 3 members of your group by alphabet will argue the case of Campbell Brown. The remaining 3 groups, or the last 3 listed alphabetically, should argue the case presented by Jim Carrey. In groups of 5, the first 3 people will do Campbell Brown, and the last 2 will do Jim Carrey. There are a few groups that the students, some students have not turned in assignments, and so I'm not sure if they will continue to be in your group. So other groups may go down to 5 as well. But for now, we'll stay with the 6. Notice that it may be your maiden name, and just go along with that. I'm not gonna mess with changing the maiden name and changing up the groups. Your initial post needs to be in by the end of the first week of the unit, which, because the unit started today, that is by next Thursday, October 15th. Your first post needs to be done. If not, you will lose points. Then you need to respond to at least 2 other students with substantive information to receive the other part of your grade for this. So please pay attention to that. Here are the discussion groups. I don't know if they list them. They do appear to be listed in alphabetical order. So in this first group, Raquel, Cassie, and Darian would all argue the case of Campbell Brown, the first 3 students. Rachel, David, and Marley would respond to the Jim Carrey side of the argument, being the last 3 students. On the groups that only have 5, like group 3 right here, Drew, Fiorella, I'm going to say that wrong, I'm sorry, and Shalane, sorry if I messed it up, would do the first argument of Campbell Brown, and Erica and Courtney would do the second. So pay attention to this list. I've also emailed it out as an attachment. You should have received it. The assignments for Unit 2 are almost identical to Unit 1. So you have the Dear Abby letters, 9 responses required, 3 from each chapter, chapter 5, 6, and 7. The reflective journal, the discussion board or the collaborative quest that I just went over, the reading checks for all 3 chapters, 5, 6, and 7, and the observations in development. Lastly, a connection that I want you guys to notice from these chapters is these chapters focus on the first 2 years. This is a video that I watched in my master's program that was interesting to look at because how development, typically we say that development doesn't really change as far as what a 1-year-old will be like, what a 2-year-old will be like, what a 3-year-old. People can generally guess the age, especially in the toddler years of a child, because they typically follow a certain developmental path. For example, typically you crawl before you walk. You say 1 words before you say 2 words, things like that. They build upon each other. But sometimes we see development changing because of the world and the culture we live in. And this is a video I encourage you to watch. It's cute, it's short, I think it's like 2.5 minutes, of how technology is starting to creep into development and how we are developing technologically, so to speak. So I encourage you to watch this, comment any thoughts you have on it, let me know. But it's an interesting connection to real life and the application to real life. That is it for tonight. Again, if you have questions, please contact me, email me, and let me know what I can help you with. And good luck for this unit, and I look forward to working with you guys.